A recent Teslarati article, linked in the description, passes on some extremely surprising and positive news. U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Shumer is calling on Congress to mandate that all U.S. cars will be electric by 2030. This is great news for Tesla and all other BEV players on the market, if it comes to pass. Let's take a look at this news. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. So I'm hanging out at the Supercharger in Springfield, Virginia because we are visiting family right now, which is awesome. We've all gotten our shots, the whole family, and none of us have been taken over by the Borg yet. No, everything's fine. All's well. We're super happy to all be vaccinated. We're still being very, very careful, of course. I've got masks everywhere. But anyway, while I was waiting for this to charge, I just wanted to react quickly to an amazing announcement by Chuck Shumer, who, by the way, for international people, no, in American politics, whatever, but he is the Senate Majority Leader. So remember that the Senate currently is split exactly 50-50, 50 people and 50 people between Democrat and Republican. And Kamala Harris, who's the vice president, because of the rules, gets to break that tie. So effectively, the Democrats have control just barely in the Senate. And so Chuck Shumer has a good deal of power right now because he is the leader of the Senate. But anyway, he is saying that, I'm going to read some of this stuff off the article here. It says, Schumer noted that he is planning to include an ambitious proposal to President Joe Biden's infrastructure bill, one that would replace every gas car in the United States with an electric car. Now, that's specifically car, so there's some wiggle room in terms of like utility trucks, like a Ford F-150, which is a utility or a lifestyle truck, versus something like a large semi-truck versus something like a definite work truck or something. But anyway, so there's some play in that, but 2030 is only 9 years away at this point, and that would jump. If this came to pass, this would jump the United States from a very reluctant rearward player in terms of going electric to suddenly being at the forefront. Because if you look at California, it's 2035. If you look at, well, China is talking about carbon neutral by 2040 or so. So that's a whole other ball game. But certainly getting cars completely BEV by 2030 is a massive, massive undertaking and super ambitious. And I love the fact that he is looking to do this. So I think it's great. I don't play politics on this channel, as everybody knows. I never really mention it, but I think this is a hugely positive thing for people who are interested in the environment, for just frankly for better cars. There's no question that electric cars over their entire lifetimes, even though it does cost more resources and money and carbon, etc., to build the cars, by the time that they live their entire lifetime, by the time they go through their entire lifespan, and especially if you recycle the batteries at the end of the process, they are far, far less costly to the environment. And very, very soon as potentially 2023 or so, when Tesla releases their new Model 2, or as I was saying, Model 8, some people are saying Model 4, whatever. Whenever they release their $25,000 US car, that is going to be a game changer, because remember, we're talking about other automobiles that are gas powered are stuck in the, at least $25,000 range. They really can't get cheaper than that because of the nature of building them. Whereas if the batteries keep getting cheaper like they're projected to do, again, you can watch my Wright's Law video up here if you want to. There's lots and lots of evidence that this is happening already. When batteries at the pack level get below $100 per kilowatt hour, which could happen by 2023 or so, and again, that enables something like a $25,000 car to be made, because the battery pack's super expensive, most expensive portion of the car. If that price comes down and continues to drop as it has, they will get cheaper than gas-powered cars. And again, I've talked about this a lot. Again, I'll put some videos up here, but it's going to be a disruption that is going to happen, and it's going to happen really fast. And if the United States, for example, gets behind doing what Schumer's talking about, the United States will become a big player. And if the US goes that direction, all bets are off, really. I think the really big question mark at that point will become, can we manufacture enough batteries? I just did one on VW. They're talking about having 240 gigawatt hours by 2030. Tesla, on the other hand, is talking about having 3,000 or 3 terawatt hours by 2030. And Elon Musk was saying we need 10 terawatt hours total, everybody, right? So that's Tesla plus everybody else by 2030 in order to convert the entire fleet to batteries. That is a really big ask. That's a huge undertaking in terms of natural resources, in terms of logistics, et cetera, et cetera. So this is very optimistic, but again, the United States can take a leadership role here, and I think that's all to the good. I was very concerned that the U.S. was being so laggard. So I want to talk a few details here. Let me look this up. So let's see. He initially suggested this in 2014. Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to find the spot here. Developing. Okay, so they need to develop a charging infrastructure, which is true. I've talked about that before on my ski trip with my son. We had to take the gas car because there just wasn't a decent option for charging. That should hopefully improve quickly, and VW is talking about doing that too, right? Electrify America should get much bigger over time. Certainly the Tesla supercharger network. Again, I think the United States needs to do what Europe has done and standardize on some sort of plug architecture. Honestly, what I say is that Tesla should open that plug architecture to everybody. That would be great. Now, on the other hand, I'm in Springfield. This place is packed. There's maybe 2 or 3 empty stalls, and I think there's 20 of them here. So, so if Tesla opens up that technology, that reduces a reason to buy their cars. So yeah, anyway, so we'll see what happens. But I think an infrastructure with a standardized plug, and you may have to just get an adapter, right? If you have a Leaf, you'd have to give it an adapter potentially, or if you have a Tesla, you might have to get an adapter. But anyway, getting some sort of adapter that everybody can use, a very inexpensive little piece of plastic that can go between all the different things, so everybody has the same charging network. Again, I liken that to like going to the gas station and having to get a weird shaped, gas funnel, right? So it's like, you're like, oh gosh, I have to have the octagon shaped one to fit into my gas tank, which means I need to go to the BP station next door because the Marathon station has a square hose, right? It's that ridiculous. They need to get this all standardized and worked out. But anyway, I think that's all to the good to have an infrastructure. And then the other part that I thought was super important was, Schumer's proposal would provide anybody who trades in their gas cars for an electric alternative a substantial point of sale discount. So they're already talking about re-enabling the $7,500 tax credit for everyone, including Tesla, and that's kind of a bummer because we bought the car without that. That sucks. But I think that's great. I think they definitely need to re-enable that. But substantial, and he said, it's going to be, quote, more generous than the current $7,500 federal EV tax rate. So it's unclear whether they would roll that in. So maybe if you traded it in, you'd get $12,000 back versus $7,500, or potentially you'd get $7,500 plus if you traded in, you would get another $5,000 or something. So we'll have to see how that comes. It's all obviously not clear at this point, but how cool is that they will give a trade-in value? So that's going to very, very rapidly encourage people to move away from gas-powered cars, assuming they can get battery electric vehicles. That's going to be a big problem if this legislation comes through. There's the demand for battery electric vehicles is going to go through the roof. It's already so high that manufacturers can't make enough vehicles right now. So I don't know how they're going to deal with that. So the U.S. might have to provide more funds to help these companies build faster to build this all out. So very interesting stuff. Let's see. Direct incentives for automakers to phase out their vehicles. So direct incentives to automakers. This is also a really, really good part of this deal, and I think this is forward thinking on Schumer's part. You have to incentivize automakers, and I think actually I don't see this in the Teslarati article, but you also need to incentivize the auto dealership network, or somehow deal with that, because auto dealers are going to be very resistant to this whole thing because they're not making money off of these cars. We've talked about this before, and a lot of other people have too, that the deal with traditional auto dealerships model is they make 5 or 6% interest, if that, on the actual sale of the car. Most of what they get is from financing, and of course people will still finance their cars, so they'll still be able to make that money. But the other part is service, and electric cars, again, I'm planning on driving this thing for about 48 months before really needing to do anything to it, right? So that's not good. I guess rotating tires. So I will have to either do that myself or pay somebody a small amount of money to rotate tires. But that's all that's available. So those kinds of things make it very unappealing to an auto dealership that depends on service to make the money. So I think that's going to be something they're going to have to deal with. So I think it's all to the good that they're dealing with auto manufacturers to incentivize that changeover, and that's great, and that should really, really help out. And it's not really a bailout, but I think that's going to be excellent for the traditional auto manufacturers. Obviously, somebody like Tesla doesn't have to deal with that, or Lucid, or I don't know, Lordstown, right? Ha ha ha. As if they were ever going to manufacture an actual car. But anyways, but the cars manufacturers that are currently making ICE cars, it'll help them a lot to make that transition. So that would be to the good. And I would think these manufacturers would be behind this, because otherwise they're going out of business. So if they get some money from someplace to help them make this transition, they're probably going to be all for it. So the auto dealership network is a big lobby apparently. And I think that Schumer also needs to deal with that. And he may be doing that. It just is not clear from this article. Let's see. Okay, so speaking of that, details about the Senate Majority Leader's proposal are still being worked out. This is again a quote, such as the discount given to each person trading in a gas-powered car for an EV. But Schumer estimates that the initiative would cost about $454 billion over 10 years to implement. And just to put this in context, Biden's infrastructure and climate proposal is expected to cost around $2 trillion. So this would be a quarter of, I'm not clear whether it's a quarter of that total or whether it would add on another $500 billion. This is a massive amount of money, but remember, this is infrastructure money is not bad spending, in my opinion. Obviously, other people can disagree with me, but I think building bridges, building roads, building airports and things like that, I think building transportation infrastructure or electrical infrastructure, good God, again, I don't see that as part of this list, but I think that again what they need to be doing is looking at electrical infrastructure too. We need to make smarter grids. We need to make more diffuse grids. I've talked about that before as well, like solar panels and things like that we can put in more places so that we don't have to build these monstrous and very environmentally and economically damaging huge plants, that we can manufacture these smaller plants nearer to where we're using the power. So again, I think that also needs to be part of it, because you again have to grow your electric infrastructure to take account of the fact that what was being used, the energy that was being put into gasoline and diesel fuel to power the vehicles, is now being put into electricity. So there's going to be it's like you're using the same amount of energy or less for electricity, but you're transitioning from having some people doing electricity and some people doing gas to having everybody using electricity. So they need to beef up the electrical grid to handle that as well. Let's see if there's anything else. So let's see. Considering that, okay, so Joe Biden has already said that the 650,000 vehicles that are part of the government fleet, he wants to replace by BEVs. I don't remember the timing of that. I think it was by 2028, so that would be if he was here for 2 terms. So one of the problems would be if a Republican or somebody with a very different view of all of this stuff took over in 2024, all of this could get unraveled. So anyway, I'm hoping that this is a really, really positive event, but it could be derailed by the fact that American government switches every 4 years. So, it could go back to square one at that point. But, after 4 years, by 2024, early 2025, if things are rolling the way I'm expecting them to, and battery electric vehicles are already cheaper sticker price than gas cars, I think that transition is going to have its own momentum. So at that point, it's probably not going to matter anymore. But giving it a push at this point is really, really good. So anyway, so that's the article. I think it's really amazing news. I think it's great for us consumers. We are going to end up doing better. We'll save money in the long term versus what it would cost us to continue to buy ICE cars. I think the incentives are great. I think it's going to put the United States back into the forefront in terms of this transition instead of being the laggards who are behind everybody else. So I think all of these things are fantastic. I just, fingers crossed that this will actually work, because even with a democratically controlled House and Senate, it's just barely on both halves. So this could easily be voted down or watered down into basically nothing by the time it actually gets to the president's desk to sign. So we'll see what happens, but I'm holding out hope. I think this is extremely positive news for anybody who likes the environment and anybody who likes battery electric vehicles. This is all to the best. All right, anyway, hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please do like and subscribe for, so other people can find it and so you can see more of this. Also, don't forget about the merch store. I did a design called Don't Mess with Tesla, and it's Don't Mess with Texas, but it's been rearranged to Tesla. I'll put a picture of it here. It's hot off the press. I don't even have one myself yet, but I designed it. I hope you guys love it. I think it's really cool with the whole Austin thing. And of course, for my trip this summer, which is coming into focus, I think it's going to be in mid to late May. We're going to Austin and we're going to Boca Chica and we're going to try to catch a Starship launch, and we're definitely going to go to Giga Austin. But I will definitely be wearing my Don't Mess with Tesla t-shirt, because I think that's perfect. Anyway, so hopefully you can catch that and you can order one of those and have one of those for yourself. Also, don't forget about Patreon. You can look in the link for that. I really appreciate all my Patreon supporters. There's a couple of new ones, but I don't have you guys up right now, so I'll save it for an episode when I'm back home again. But thank you all so much for the new patrons and for the old patrons, to everybody. I really appreciate the support. And of course, also don't forget that we are both Tesla and Amazon affiliates. If you look in the link, you can see how a click will help out the channel just by doing some shopping. So thank you very much for that as well. In the meantime, please do ask me questions in the comments or at my email address, which is DrKnowItAllKnows@gmail.com. Till next time, bye-bye.